Greetings and God bless. So, I'm just reading about ADD and their diet, and it all makes sense. But when when I think about implementing what is suggested for a good ADD lifestyle, it's protein. And we know, in if you're somewhat familiar with the Weston A. Price Foundation or the paleo diet, like, you want to eat high quality meat. So that's grass fed, grass finished, free range animal products, whether you're going to eat eggs or milk, cheese, and meat. And well, that's outside of my price range. And then they recommend fish oil. So that's probably $40. If you can even find quality fish oil in your area. And that's, going to be $40 for maybe 2-3 weeks. Um, and and of course, you have to have cooking facilities in order to do this. Not to mention go out to nature or visit with friends. All of that requires a safe place, living in a safe area where there's not homeless people coming after you, where there's not such careless drivers that it's so stressful to park, or get out of parking. Um, or to where it's too stressful to cross the street. Like, that's been my experience when I was living in Missoula, Montana. um, Downtown, when there'd be a festival or something. And but anytime downtown in Missoula, drivers were so aggressive, and they would bully, and they felt like they had the right to bully people. And I had multiple friends who did not have the capacity to see pedestrians. They did not know. I knew people who did not realize somebody at the corner was waiting to cross the street. They just thought people were just standing there because they wanted to stand there. That's how drivers are in some places in this country. They don't understand that pedestrians are actually trying to walk from one point A to point B. This is what we have to deal with as pedestrians when you're in the inland, interior of the United States. I don't get it, because but anyway, and anyways, when I was living in Missoula, I called the police about this one guy who was threatening me when I was trying to cross the street. And I mean, it was a crowded street. It was, small streets. I mean, he shouldn't have been surprised that there was a pedestrian. And somebody, I forget if it was a pedestrian activist or if it was one of the police people, but they said that the most number of calls that the Missoula Police Department got was from drivers complaining about pedestrians. And there's not a whole lot of pedestrians in Missoula, Montana. There's tons more drivers, and the drivers that I met, clean and sober, or somewhat, they did not, they said they could not see. They told me out of their mouth that they couldn't see the pedestrian, even though it was the bright light of day. Um, so I think there's like a disability something. I don't know. I don't understand, because when I've lived in California and everybody drove, or not everybody, but people drove, they didn't complain about pedestrians. They complained about maybe other drivers or whatever, but they didn't begrudge a pedestrian trying to cross the street. But if you're in Montana or South Dakota, or even in Oregon, because so Oregon, even though it tries to promote itself, greenwash itself, uh, like, it will have like 40 blocks or 20 blocks where you can't cross, some part of the street, like in Portland, for instance. But other locations as well, like, they do not make it pedestrian friendly, and And I've known people in Portland, complain about people crossing the street, but understand it's 20 blocks. So that person's supposed to go 20 blocks if they're trying to cross the street? Are you kidding me? So and what's interesting about the mentality of a driver is they're like, "It's me first, that's why I have a car." So if they didn't have a car, that same driver would not walk 20 blocks to cross the street. That same driver would cross the street whenever it suited their uh their need, you know? So anyway, but back to what I'm uh this ADD diet or a healthy diet, like in order to be healthy, you have to be rich. And of course my peers, my friends would be like, well, if you can't afford it, get food stamps. If you can't afford it, blah blah blah, go to the food bank. There's like El Cheapo canned food crap at food banks. Every once in a while maybe there's something nice, but you can't really have a reliable, dependable, grass-fed, grass-finished, fish oil. You're not going to find that. Um, and and especially with how things are going with the surveillance state totalitarianism thing, I think it's best to avoid interacting with people who want to violate medical privacy, want to violate medical freedom, and feel entitled to doing so. So I think it's important to have as little contact with that those principalities. We fight not flesh and blood, but principalities. So yeah, I just find it's a very interesting dilemma. And for instance, finding housing where you're in a nice, like, safe neighborhood where it's safe to go walking, whether you're safe from the homeless people, whether you're safe from reckless drivers who won't let you cross the street. Like when I was living in Missoula, like the drivers there were so reckless. Like the moment the first block that I was trying to cross, it was a battle, and it was a battle each driveway. And a lot of people don't walk in Missoula, they don't walk in South Dakota because the weather's hard, and it's just really pathetic actually in my mind, because there's some lovely weather. There's a really great reason to walk around, if only for fresh air and sunshine and just enjoying where you're working or where, what your neighborhood. Um, but everybody drives, and yeah, I think like it's a toxic mentality, even though it's a norm. It's toxic in my opinion. And anyways, I just wanted to say, like, no wonder so many people have attention deficit disorder or any kind of illness, because it requires um, really a good money. It requires money, and in order for you to have uh, enough money to just even basic, like, pay for the basics of what you need to be healthy, because we were living in this toxic world, so you can't do like ordinary healthy stuff. You have to do these super duper healthy things. And so you have to have like a foundation of like parents or somebody supporting you. And when you're dealing with chronic illness, that tends to burn bridges. There's just some elements. And of course, your friends or your family don't want to have anything to do with you because they don't want to have the burden of trying to help you. So it's just this really challenging, hands are tied kind of thing. And even if you do try to, like in my experiences of trying to access resources, you're exploited. because the care providers are going to be like, well, I'm not paid enough. I'm suffering so much. And so then they exploit you. They actually break the law. They do all sorts of like um, illegal things. And they're like, well, I'm a good person. So I get to break the law because I need to make money. I need to live up to the standards that I want. And of course, I support people living, making money. I do. I think though breaking the law and exploiting people, that's criminal. And no matter how nice your nails are, or how nice of a car you're doing, or what your job title is, doing something criminal is criminal. It's against the law, and it shouldn't. There's consequences. So anyways, and I just, I guess I wanted to just do this video because I have a lot of peers, friends, family, even, who are activists, or, they volunteer and they consider themselves informed and caring, but, they don't want to have anything to do with somebody that they know personally who has these issues. They want it to be, removed 30 times over, so they can leave it. And the thing is, of course, I'm like, I don't want to be a burden on anybody. So and people have a sense of, for instance, my circumstances, like they, but only one friend of mine has ever said, repeatedly, let me know if you need anything. And if you are somebody who knows, who cares about somebody, who likes somebody, who loves somebody, who, if you really are willing to help, make it clear to your friend, the person who you think might be suicidal, okay? And if you're a real jerk, and you're a family member of somebody who's suicidal, or a friend of somebody who's suicidal, a spouse, please, number one, stop driving that person crazy. And help them, like, in some small way, because I do believe, just from observing people the past like year, that I think some people drive suicidal people to suicide. I think some people do it deliberately. This is just a new thought I've had. Maybe it's a known thing, but stop driving people to want to commit suicide. Okay, if you're somebody who doesn't realize this is a bad thing, stop trying to make people want to kill themselves. Especially if you're a family member, especially, if you're a spouse, if you're a coworker, if you're a boss, stop doing that. And if you can, like, I mean, that, number one, that's just a huge thing. And if you can do anything to help, do it. And if you're somebody who's really messed up and evil, and wants the attention that the suicidal person will bring, let's say they commit suicide, then you get all the sympathy. Please don't do that. It's wrong. And I mean, I think that's basically my point. And this, during the lockdowns, the first set of lockdowns, in 2020, there was 300,000 suicides. 300,000 suicides. Suicides. These aren't people who were, they didn't have an infection. And I'm sure there's probably an equivalent amount, this past year, maybe. And I guess I'm just letting people know, if you are somebody who donates money to to a good organization, if you're somebody who volunteers your time, I want to say to you, look around to a family member or friend or somebody, an acquaintance, and instead of donating to some organizations, that's just going to launder your money. It's going to pay for somebody's nice shoes or their trip to Bali. Okay. Look at somebody that you can help. And I understand you don't want that person to depend on you. Just come to that bridge when you get to that point. But stop subsidizing these large organizations that are just money laundering things, because I would say most organizations are they're just taking people's money and buying somebody jewelry or paying for somebody else's college kids to go somewhere. And and unless you're really looking at the annual report and the monthly expenditures and stuff like that, but even so, because I don't think, just in my experience of observing, new structures that get built, like a food bank doesn't need a whole new building. Um, I could be wrong, but all of these things, all of these new constructions are ways for people to embezzle money or to, launder money. And the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I have really noticed that. And so I think that's my thoughts. Like, if you really care about somebody, if you're concerned about somebody, invest in them. And if you need to do it anonymously. And if it's your growing edge, if it's too uncomfortable, it's a growth opportunity. So stop trying to persuade yourself you're a good person because you donate regularly to Democracy Now! Or to some shishi homeless center or something like that, or you donate to some grand event. Those grand events cost a lot of money to get put on. So if you're ever seeing an organization that you're paying attention to, and they're doing a large gala that, you know, with $200 plates, they're getting compensation back for that large catering job and rental. I mean, it's so obvious, it's hard to see. But I guess, that's my point. Like, if you care about somebody, number one, stop being a abusive jerk. Stop being a negligent jerk. If there's somebody you care about, a loved one, tell them you're there for them. They may never ask you for help, but it means so much. So instead of like being anonymous, and this is going to be messy, okay? This isn't going to be some sanitized, uh, you know, comfortable thing. But tell them you're there for them if they need you. And be prepared. It might be annoying. It might be something unpleasant. You might totally regret this. But stop helping your family, your friends, your acquaintances that you're aware of, that you care about. Stop leaving that to some anonymous somebody to help, because they won't. Those anonymous things that are supposed to help are corrupt. They're human trafficking. They're just like soft human trafficking organizations. So stop it. Stop expecting somebody else to take care of your area, your neighborhood. Because whoever is taking care is actually part of an evil principality. And that's why people are doing so badly. That's why everything is so catastrophically messed up, because everybody is just they're busy starting their 5 income streams, and they're busy taking their kids to all this, you know, 10 different after school things, and they're busy featuring what a grand lifestyle they have on Instagram. So it's this, I guess, cult of self. And uh and of course, people's communities are falling apart. Of course, it's being taken over by evil principalities, because everybody's trying to compete with the Joneses in their own head. And instead of really contributing in a quality way, in a moral way, to their families and to their community. And I'm sure these people would be like, well, I'm contributing to my community. I make $1 million a year, and my kids are starting a business, and blah blah blah. And you know what? I think if we compared communities and quality of life to 100 years ago, and some lady and who had a laundry washing business and 5 kids, I bet they were better people. I bet those old fashioned people were better people, happier people, healthier people than what we have today. So we need to just get get a clue, and be better human beings. So, anyways, thanks for listening.